Okay, so in exercise 1b, question 4, we're looking at a circle with some unknown radius r. And before we even get started on parts A, B, and C, let's look at this part in the opening bit of the question. So we're being asked to round to 2 decimal places. Now it's really important to either underline that or highlight it so you remember it later, because otherwise you'll do it to a different number of decimal places, so you might not even give a decimal place answer at all, in which case you'll probably lose half a mark or a mark for no reason. Alright, so make sure you have that underlined or highlighted. Now, have a look at 4a. So in 4a we're asked the circumference of a circle if r equals 12. Well, what we asked for really is the circumference. So let's look at the circumference formula, which is c equals 2 pi r, 2 times pi times r, the radius. Well, if r equals 12, we just change this r bit, and we change it into, sorry, I should not use the colour, let's use a green. C equals 2 times pi times, instead of r, we put in 12. So C equals 24 pi. And if we do that on the calculator, we get 24 times pi equals 75.39822, etc. Now, remember we've got to round to 2 decimal places. And if we round to 2 decimal places, we get 75.40, because this 8 pushes the 39 into a 40. Okay, so we get c equals 2 pi equals 75.40, and that's our first answer. So what we did, we replaced the r in the formula with a 12, because that's what we've been asked to do. Let's have a look at 4b. In 4b, we're asked to find a rule for r in terms of the circumference c. So once again, we start with our circumference formula, c equals 2 pi r. Well, what we want to do is to undo whatever's happening to r to get r on its own, because we want a rule for r, right? So we want a rule for r, right? So we want r on its own. Well, to undo what's happening to r here, to get it on its own, we have to divide both sides by 2 pi, because right now 2 pi is multiplying r. So if we divide both sides by 2 pi, we'll get rid of that. Alright, so that gets cancelled. So what we're left with is c divided by 2 pi equals r. And that's our answer. So we might want to rewrite that as, just to be clear, r equals c on 2 pi, because in maths we're used to having the important bit, the bit that we're getting a rule for, the bit that's on its own on the left. But either one is okay. But if I was to write one of them, I would write it this way, because then it just makes it a bit clearer for the person marking. So that's the answer for 4b. Finally, for 4c, we're asked to find the radius of a circle with a circumference of 35 meters. So what we do now is we use our rule for radius in terms of circumference, right? So we got one in terms of the other. And we find that radius equals, well, the circumference we're being told is 35 meters, right? So let me highlight this. 35 meters is the circumference. So instead of that c there, we just put 35 divided by 2 pi. Now, when I go to put this in the calculator, I've got to be really careful and make sure I use a bracket on the bottom bit. Alright, so anytime you put something like a fraction into the calculator, make sure you use a bracket on the bottom bit. So I do 35 divided by, open bracket, 2 times pi, close bracket, equals. And so my answer is 5.57, right? That's 2 decimal places. Equals 5.57. Now what's the unit? Well, it was meters here, it should be meters here. 5.57 meters. And that's the answer.